What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life's a Garden. Today's guest is returning for his umpteenth time. I've lost track how many times he's been on the show, but there's a reason for that. I enjoy talking to him. We always have great conversations. He's one of my best friends. And this time around, we got some really fun stuff planned. We're going to do a list of top fives. We got a blind taste test challenge set up. So stick around for all that. It's going to be a good time. He is the Harry to my Lloyd, the Vegeta to my Goku. He is the Beavis to my Butthead. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Eric Wolf. You know what I'm going to say? That's going to be fun for everybody to... That's how we're going to lead it right into the episode. People are just going to shut it off immediately. They're like, what is this?
Like, just... like 5 minutes of us just being like, yeah! Yeah!
You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? I'm in vacation mode. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's why I was like, let's just crack open some beers because, I'm leaving for Nashville tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So, when this episode actually drops, I'll be in Nashville.
I'm gonna go watch the Broncos.
Hopefully win.
I think we're on the same... I think we have the same record now.
Oh, I know. The Bucks and... Like, there's been a lot of weird...
Well, half of our team is injured, and our quarterback is going through a divorce, so...
Yeah, and then he won his first game right after they announced that, so who knows? Honestly...
Well, it's against the Rams, who are, like, blowing it pretty hard this year.
Right, another team that's surprising, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like... It's shocking to see the Packers are struggling, the Rams... It's just an interesting year. And then you got like the Jets being really good, the Eagles, which isn't that overly surprising, but the Jets, the Giants, teams that you wouldn't expect to be good are doing better.
Right.
But I kind of like that. It's a nice change of pace. It's kind of been bland watching all these same teams be good all these years. Mm-hmm. So that's been fun.
So I don't watch like super closely or anything, but what I have seen, like, tell me if, like, I'm just thinking this, but I feel like it's, I feel like it's, like, a Herculean trial to ask a game to, like, be over 30 points.
To be over?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every game that I've watched has been, like...
Oh, really low scoring?
Like, 10 to 13 final.
That just, I mean, you're probably right. It's been a lot of that stuff, and I think that's just a big... tribute to defense. Mm-hmm. I think defenses have really like had to step up their game and just like the game planning, or I shouldn't say that, but like the preparation for quarterbacks in today's system. Mm-hmm. One thing you'll notice is like running backs are not very utilized. So I don't know if that's because they've taken away the run game or because they're like just getting so much better at covering the passing game because like guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen. I think it's just a testament to defenses being better now than they were the last few years. I don't know. But also I don't watch every game. There have been a lot of games, like if you look at the Lions, they've had a lot of high scoring games that they've lost.
I've seen a few of those, yeah. Like I'm not saying every game for sure. I think that it probably is partly just, like, the games that I watch, because, like, me and Mom obviously watch the Broncos games, and those all seem pretty low scoring.
Well, and the thing of that is, it's like, our defense is crushing it, because we barely allow...
That's all you got.
...more than 20 points. Mm-hmm. At the same time, our offense can't score more than 20 points.
Right.
So that's always going to lead to really low-scoring games.
Mm-hmm. And then I watch the Bucks, and their defense is definitely the best part of their team right now, too.
And I think that's a lot of teams. I think that's just kind of what you're seeing is a lot of matchups where defense is better than the offense, and when you have two good defenses and two not very good offenses, you're bound to get low-scoring games.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say this, too. Just the last time you were on,
Yeah.
we weren't champs.
Yeah.
So,
No, for real.
we've had that since...
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah, man.
I know that you were, like, big on it, like, talking about it on here and stuff, too, but...
Yeah, I did a whole episode. I think.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm sure I talked about it many times.
No, it's kind of funny because, like, you know that, like, I'm all about the Avs. Like, I like football and everything, and I like watching it, but, like, when it really counts for me is, like, hockey and the Avs. So, it was cool when the Bucks won the Super Bowl, you know, a couple years ago, but this was, like, a whole different thing for me. And it's funny because, like, the whole time that I've been watching the Avs since, like, I think I really got back into it pretty good in, like, 2014.
Yeah, I mean, you've been strong into it a lot longer than I have. Like, you definitely pulled me into it. Obviously, I've followed the Avs and was an Avs fan, but definitely not the most devoted fan.
Right.
But, yeah, when you started watching it, definitely brought me back into it a little more. But not even right when you were getting into it, because it took me a little bit longer to...
Right. Well, it does take a minute. Like, we watched... Because they went to the playoffs the year that we watched and, like, got, like, surprised by the Wild and out in the first round. And that was a bummer. And, like, we watched it and it was cool and we had a good time. But then, like, I really didn't... Like, I wasn't, like, into it. I was into watching that and that was it. And then, like, you know, because we have the Denver local channel Altitude here. And, like, we didn't really know when the hockey season was going to start or anything like that, so we were kind of like, just whatever. And then Mom one day was like, oh, hey, the Avs are on, let's watch it. And it was like halfway through the season, we were doing fine. I think we missed the playoffs that year by like 5 points or something. We were the first ones out. But then, like, after that, we were like, dude, we got to, like, make a point of this. And then that was the season where we were, like, really, really bad. Worst team since the salary cap. But, no, what I was going to say was that, it's like since I've been watching and being like real serious about it, like I always had this idea in my head of like waiting like years and years to like win that cup, and it was gonna be just so cool when it finally happened, because I've been waiting forever, you know, and all of that, and that really didn't happen. Like, I did have to wait for a while.
See, but I would say it would actually be worse if you were just like, yeah, let's start getting into it, and then like, let's say you watch a full year, cool, you watch the next year, and then we win the cup. You know, that would kind of suck too, because it's like, you didn't really have the time to invest and really become a full-fledged, like, diehard fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, it still meant a lot to you, having been, you know, you went to games, you watched multiple seasons, you got to know all the players, know the ins and outs of the game and how the game operates, things like that. So you got to...
No, and I still feel good about it. Like, I definitely don't feel like I'm like, you know, like I didn't deserve it as a fan or anything like that. Like, I've been pretty devoted for years, but like, it's, you know, it was just funny because I was like, okay, like, it's happened, you know, like this is as high as it gets, and like, I'm not disappointed by any means.
Oh, but it's not though. A dynasty.
Well, don't get me wrong, like, it's like you can do it again.
And again and again and again.
And that would be awesome. But, like, I guess, I don't know, I look at that and I think to myself, like, that would be cool. It would be just as cool, but I don't know if it'd be cooler. Like, we've done the thing.
Here's what I'll say to that, okay? As somebody who's experienced this with the Broncos, I got to watch us go to a Super Bowl and lose, which is, like, the lowest of lows. And then I got to watch us, and this is me being a fan for over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, like, to the point we won the Super Bowl. From when I really started getting into football, it had been every bit of like anywhere between 10 and 15 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a huge portion of my life devoted to going to games, watching every single game, every season, being a huge supporter. And then you reach that top. It's the greatest feeling, you know? And I understand what you mean by, because this is fresh. We just won the cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood being like, I said it myself. I was like, I'm going to ride this high. I'm going to ride this success of us winning the Super Bowl for the next, you know, 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was true.
Yeah, no, I feel that way still. Like,
Oh, for sure. But now, I'm back to that hunger of wanting a championship.
mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't take, and it wasn't nearly that long before I was feeling that. It was maybe two years after when like the real high of the victory. Once you watch somebody else win a championship, you're kind of like, okay,
watch your team get like deleted.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, okay, we need to.
I want it back.
Exactly.
Well, and obviously I'm not there yet, so I don't know. But no, it's funny because like this year I'm watching and it's like, sorry.
No, you're good.
Like I'm watching, and you know, like if we lose a game, I'm like, I don't care. We're the Stanley Cup champions, you know.
Yeah, but
like even like as I look at it, like we're definitely not like one of the top teams. Like it's the Golden Knights and the Bruins that are like the teams right now.
And that could sway.
Oh, for sure. It's only 10 games in. That's 1/8.
And we're missing Landeskog and
Nichushkin. Well, right now we're missing Landeskog, Nichushkin, Sam Girard, Bowen Byram.
Jesus, why are we so... What happened? Just freak injuries?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just injuries. Nichushkin got surgery, and Landeskog all through the playoffs was like playing on like like an injured knee, and it's just kind of caught up with him, you know. And then Byram's like week to week, and Sam Girard's day to day with just little things, you know. But like last game yesterday, we were definitely feeling like we were playing like a Colorado Eagles roster, at least in part.
And we won though, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we're on like a 3-game win streak.
Dude, we got 4 goals in 1 period.
Hell yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what makes championship teams, honestly, is when you can persevere through things like injuries. Like,
Well, it was a big deal game. I don't know if you saw or not, but like, Altitude obviously has their own like
broadcast
team. Yeah, and ever since the Avs moved from Quebec over here, which I think was in like 93.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Like there was one guy who has been on our broadcast team forever. Like he joined us as we moved from Quebec over here, and that's Peter McNabb. And he's great. He's really, really good at what he does. And, you know, he was good about like talking about like nuanced part of the games. He was good about talking about players that you might not know. You know, like if we were playing the Capitals, he wasn't sitting there and being like, you know, there's this great player on this team that you may or may not have ever heard of. But, you know, he's pretty cool in hockey circles. His name is Alex Ovechkin. You know, he wasn't doing that shit. Just, you know, somebody that, like, really loved the game and was really into it. He died last Saturday after, like, a battle with cancer. And that game last night was his memorial.
Yeah.
No, it was his memorial.
Oh.
They're not, like, they might do a small funeral for the family, but that was, like, the one.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards, like, to the TV, I don't know if it was in the arena or not, but at least to the TV, the other, like, the main guy that talks, Mark Mosier, he, like, delivered a eulogy.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize it last night when I was watching, but I was kind of I was looking at it and I was like, man, this really kind of sounds like a eulogy.
And it was.
Yeah, and they talked about it this morning because they have a radio show, and he was saying that, like, that was it. That was his memorial.
Wow. And I saw all the players came out and put their sticks up in there. And...
They were looking right at the press box, right at the seat. When they decided for last game, like, Moj did the whole broadcast by himself, except for the intermissions, of course. But during, like, play, usually it was him and Peter talking. And they have, like, substitutes. Like, sometimes Mark Rycroft will be there and stuff, but they didn't do that. They had Mark and they had Peter's empty chair. And they wanted to do that, like, you know, as a means of respect and everything. But I gotta tell you, I got respect for Moj to be able to sit there and do that alone.
Yeah.
You know.
So it was the cancer that got him, or?
That's what my understanding is.
Because I thought he had beaten it.
Well, that's what they said. And they're kind of being, like, I guess I'm not exactly sure what they're saying, but they basically made it sound like it either wasn't true, that he actually got to remission, or he was in remission for a short time, and then it came back. But he didn't want people to know. He didn't want people to be sad and worried about him and stuff.
Well, I'll say this. Pretty awesome that the Avs won right before he passed,
Yeah.
Like, he was able to be a part of that, and, like...
Oh, and that's, like, something that I've been saying, too, is, like, he's been a part of us forever, and he obviously saw us win the other 2 cups, but then he saw a long time of us not getting there, including the lowest of the low for this team. But he got to be there to see it one more time. And considering the fact, I mean, it can sound like callous to say, like, oh, hey, well, at least we won a cup before he died. Like, as if that's really, like, a big thing.
But I mean, I would say, that's a huge part of his life. Like, that was his livelihood.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
He dedicated his life
is this
to.
dude's life.
So it's cared. Like, yeah, it's like, I'm not saying, yeah, it's not to say, I would say that about me. Like, I would hope people would say that about me. It's like, yeah, he got to see the Broncos win a Super Bowl before he died.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because that was a huge part of my life.
Well, it's like, I think about that for myself. Like, that's something that I wanted to happen for me when I died, and I'm not nearly as close to it as he was.
Well, and it's just like knowing that he had fought with cancer. Obviously, we were unaware that it may or may not have come back or whatever, Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? Maybe he was just dealing with aftermath of chemotherapy and whatever. But regardless of all that, it's like, think about the time, if we were destined to win the cup this year, he wouldn't have seen it. It would never have happened.
Right.
Like, the timing of it all, I mean, that's just fate in itself.
It couldn't have been better.
Yeah,
I guess.
And he, yeah, so cheers to Peter McNabb, like, we gotta freaking give it up for one of the best voices in the game,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So... It was cool. They didn't want to have a moment of silence for him. They wanted to have a moment of celebration.
Nice. That's super cool. That's super cool.
That's what he wanted.
Yeah, I had seen that. I was going to text you about it, but it's like, what am I going to say? Like, you already know it happened and all that. So it's a bummer. It's always sad. Dude, there's been a lot of, like, celebrity deaths lately. Because, like, freaking Kevin Conroy died today. He was the voice of Batman on the animated series. Gallagher died today.
Yeah.
Freaking, what's his name? Carter?
Aaron Carter.
Aaron Carter. Aaron Carter died freakishly. He was like 28. Wasn't he? He was our age.
Yeah.
Or was he?
I think he was a little older.
Okay, I'm thinking
he was in NSYNC when we were kids.
Yeah, well, he wasn't in NSYNC.
Or was he in Backstreet Boys?
No. His brother's in NSYNC.
Well, no. Like, Nick Carter is in one, and Aaron Carter's in the other.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's what I remember.
Oh, maybe you're right. Like, I knew. Yeah. Okay. No, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Is there was one.
Okay.
One and one the other.
Sure. Okay. I believe it. Yeah. No, but I knew he was like a boy band type guy anyway, or he was a musician. Maybe I thought it was maybe because he was the brother of Nick Carter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then the rapper, I can't think of his name, from, I can't even think of the group he's in.
I'm really bad with that stuff.
I know. I should know it because I've heard it enough times. I'm just going to look it up out of respect. But yeah, he got killed. Take off is his name. So it's just like, it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of, the fact that, I guess two of them, a few of them are older, died probably more likely of natural causes or of medical causes. And then two of them died freakishly, one by, I think it was an overdose, and the other by getting murdered. And it made me think about the fact that, like, because we have so many celebrities, like, the longer we go in life, there's going to be more and more celebrities in like, the overall books, I guess, know. It's like, so-and-so died that used to be an actor in the 1970s. We have those, and then we have, like, the A-list celebrities of today, and we have the A-list celebrities of yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you add sports, you add movies, music, It's just interesting to think, and then you have some celebrities that are only people who are popular for 5 to 10 years. You have some that are famous for 40 years. But even still, it's people remember people. And then now you're going to have like meme celebrities. You're going to have internet celebrities, YouTube celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we're going to get to the point where every single day is going to be like, oh, did you hear so-and-so like 3 or 4 celebrities died?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too that like makes it feel like there's so much more is like as we get older, the list of celebrities that we've watched die gets longer. And I think that like it makes it feel like there's more significance every time because now it's like, oh God, now it's not only just Gilbert Gottfried and the Queen of England.
Yeah.
But now it's Aaron Carter too?
Well, I guess you're right about that too. But like I said too, the longer we keep going, the pool of celebrities gets wider.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you're going to have the possibility of more people dying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but when they all happen like boom, 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 it is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then like I said, Peter McNabb, a guy who might not be as famous, but he's, in our circles he is.
Mm.
It's just another guy that's like, damn, dude, like, why is everybody dying?
Yeah. Well, I guess it just kind of happens.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It's how it goes, but it still sucks either way. Now, I was gonna say this. You've been on the show a few times, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember.
And every time, it tends to lean into a political conversation. And
That's just the person that I am.
Oh, I know. And we already discussed beforehand that we kind of wanted to lean away from all that.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, we did just have an election.
I know, I was going to say. I was thinking about that too. I was going to do my best not to bring it up, but I was like pretty fucking brutal of you to like have my non-political episode happen right after like a pretty consequential midterms, man.
Yeah.
Like, and usually the midterms don't really matter, but they did this year. But yeah. Okay, here's the big thing that I want to say about it. And I've been looking at different like parts of media. In fact, the main thing that I've been looking at is Reddit, which usually is like a pretty liberal leaning site, but they do have their conservative spheres, and I've been looking at that as well just to kind of see what the commenters are saying about the midterms and everything. And it sounds to me like the biggest takeaway from this whole thing, and of course this can change, but it sounds to me like for the Republican Party, the era of Donald Trump is over.
I'm not... I could have told you that.
Yeah, well...
I mean, I kind of knew that was... I mean, okay,
you could feel it coming, but now the conservatives themselves are saying it.
Sure.
You
And
know?
so, here's... I kind of thought that for a long time. And...
You gotta think he's a one-time winner and a 3-time loser. He won his first presidential election, lost those midterms, lost his presidential election or re-election, and now lost these midterms. And I say that he lost
I was just
these
gonna say.
midterms because there were several candidates that he personally propped up. The biggest one being Dr. Oz from the show.
That was so ridiculous.
A snake oil salesman. But like, these are people that he propped up himself, and a lot of his specific candidates did really, really bad. On the flip side, it's already been identified who his big competitor is going to be in the Republican Party for president next cycle, which is going to be Ron DeSantis. And he blew it out of the park. He gave a great speech, I say objectively, because I actually think it really sucked. But like, he himself, he gave a speech that his base and the Republican base as a whole really, really enjoyed. So, like, right now, he's really, like, enjoying that popularity.
Okay, so there was 2 parts to the whole Trump thing, as far as I was concerned. As far as, like, why I thought his era was over.
Mm-hmm.
And why there was never going to be a re-election. Like, he was never going to...
Well, he'll try.
No, I'm sure he will. And, or maybe not, I don't know.
He's already attacking DeSantis.
Which is stupid.
They're gonna...
Like, that's so stupid, because, first of all...
I think it's great.
Well, sure, but it's... Okay, well, I'll ask you something else here in a second. First of all, it's stupid because it's going to obviously split the party.
Yeah.
Or draw... Well, but in the end, they're still going to have a primary.
Right.
What would hurt is if he ran as an independent.
Well, that would be like suicide for the right side.
Exactly.
Of the thing. But I'm not saying that, like, you can't really say that he's not going to do it. Like, he's already just throwing just attacks all over.
Which
He's
is
like attacked McConnell. He's attacked DeSantis because he doesn't care, man.
I know. He's a total narcissist.
Well, he's a
riverboat
he's just
captain.
a rogue. He's a rogue guy. He's not like a politician. He might run as if you were.
He might just make up his own party.
That he's talked about it before.
I know,
the MAGA party. And like at this point, like if you told me that he was going to do that simply to spite the Republican establishment, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
No, I wouldn't either.
Just to be vindictive and hand the win over to the left.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked either. But anyways, my whole, I guess partially I could just kind of feel that that people were kind of moving away from the Trump stuff, and
you definitely still have his fanatical supporters,
sure, but every group does,
right?
And here's another thing.
But they have been moving away since the election.
And you could feel you could feel for a long time DeSantis getting some heat. Like he was going to be the guy he's going to be the guy they're going to prop up because he's just kind of been that guy. Even when Trump was in presidency, he was kind of a guy that was being talked about.
Right.
And the same thing happened with Barack when Barack came up. Because remember he gave a really good speech
at the DNC during the midterms before he
with
ran.
Mitt Romney, or not Mitt Romney, for John Kerry,
right?
And
he was a senator at that point, and previous to that speech, he wasn't really known, but he gave such a good speech that people started to take note of him.
Yeah, so he had a lot of heat going into it, and they propped him up, and so that's kind of how that seems to work.
It is how it works. It's very much a known thing that happens, Yeah. The DNC and the RNC pick people, and then they might very well allocate more funds to their campaigns and stuff. That kind of happened in 2016 with the DNC between Hillary and Bernie.
Yeah.
They definitely wanted Hillary, and that's what happened.
Right.
She got the votes. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, but still, that was some fuckery.
Funding-wise, yes.
Sure. Well, and obviously because...
Well, the DNC is operated by millionaires and billionaires, and
they're both corrupt as shit, and that's why they didn't want Bernie, is because Bernie was not going to play the corrupt bullshit game.
Right.
Which is why America wanted him.
Well, I mean...
Because I know you're the socialist thing, and obviously there was a large group of Americans that did not want Bernie.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to argue about it. I'm a Bernie guy.
Yeah. But that was the divisiveness was that.
No, definitely.
But anyway, so just circling back to the Trump thing.
For sure.
I also think the media really plays up the Trump stuff as in
oh, he did wonderful for their ratings.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. And it's we're 2 years into a Biden administration, and they talk more about Trump than Biden.
Right.
And it's
they've done a little better about that now that Biden's done some pretty landmark shit.
And now it's starting to kind of dwindle.
We'll be talking a lot about DeSantis pretty soon, I'm sure.
Oh, it's going to happen very soon. But here's what I really want to ask you, okay?
Yeah.
So obviously we foresee this struggle or this internal battle
war
between DeSantis and Trump and their followers and the middle Republicans to the far right Republicans, it's all going to be this whole thing.
It's going to be the middle Republicans and the very moderate Republicans that are definitely going to be caught in the middle.
Swayed,
yeah.
And we can see that playing out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, regardless of how that bloodbath ensues, I'm going to go ahead and assume DeSantis still comes out on top.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to have a lot of those independents that are in there too. The ones that float between the right and the left.
Well, this is going to be a place where the insurrection is going to really, really matter because there's a lot of Republican people that still like to be conservative people, but didn't like to watch people attack our attack our government.
Yeah,
These guys are the patriots, and now they've kind of there's been a little bit of cognitive dissonance, I would assume, within that party of being like, I'm patriotic, but also I like the fact that we attacked the government. And now they get to walk away from that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as DeSantis, I mean, I don't think that he really said anything about it. I think that he removed himself smartly from that. He is a smart politician.
I don't hate him. Like, he's somebody on the right that I don't, and maybe that's, obviously, you know me, I'm independent. I'm very much in the middle.
I think the biggest thing that concerns me is the whole, what he did with the...
refugees?
Yeah.
He sent him on a luxurious vacation to Napa Valley.
That's not what he was doing. And
I know. Come on. He didn't send him to Detroit. Right. He sent him to Napa Valley. Like, there's some worse places to go.
Yeah.
But...
Well, no, what he did was called human trafficking.
Okay, but anyway. I think it's a breath of fresh air from Donald Trump.
I mean, I'll probably level with you on that. Like, I don't necessarily think that he is as much of a danger to this, like, to our actual system of government. I don't think that he's healthy for it, personally, but I
think what he's done in Florida isn't the worst that any governor has done.
I mean, he certainly let a lot of people die in order to...
Did he, though? I mean, look at Cuomo.
Over the COVID thing?
Look at Cuomo.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not, like, that's a whataboutism. That's not who we're talking about. I mean, I'll level with you.
A lot of people died everywhere.
I'll level with you about that, too, but in places where we took this very seriously, like, one of the things that was really hard for Cuomo is that he was kind of the first person. He was the guinea pig, and he could have made better choices. Could have. I understand that. But it got to New York before it got to Florida. By that time, like, DeSantis was very much just like, he used it as like a political bargaining chip to talk about freedom and basically let, like, the older people fend for themselves in the situation.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't sit here and quote stats or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to assume stats that I believe I heard.
Mm-hmm.
That the percentage-wise between Florida, California, New York, Texas, kind of wasn't that different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, this is what I understand it to be. Like, they were fairly either similar or not that different, you know.
It's been a minute. It's kind of, I mean, I think
based
that
based on obviously not
right,
because we're dealing with different size populations, but those are the four biggest states.
Well, yeah, you're talking like per capita or whatever.
Right.
I think that, like, I mean, I would have to look at the stats again. It's been a minute since I looked, and I don't want to, like, misquote anything. But I think that it's kind of tough to really say a whole lot in, like, the examples that you gave, because, like I said, New York is kind of its own case.
Okay.
I would say that the population density of California is probably even higher than it is in Florida.
True,
which made it really, really hard.
They are more spread out, unlike New York.
Right. Well, like I said, New York is its own thing.
New York's
I just
tough
mean
because it's
compared to Florida.
Okay. So,
you know.
But I'm just saying, California, another place that took it very seriously and was like, you know, a little bit they took it to the max, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you take Florida, who was there are two test groups that were completely opposite from each other. Like they took two different stances on the way they handled things.
I think California was probably a little bit late to the party, and I think that you also have the variable of not really knowing exactly how much those laws and everything were enforced and how much people actually followed it.
Well, you could say the opposite for Florida, though.
Of course.
You could say there was plenty of people in Florida that were abiding by their own
I know that
policy.
And I know that that's kind of the, like, big, like, political thing to say about this whole thing is, like, everybody was saying, well, don't tell me what to do, I'll take care of myself. But there was so many people that were just like, I'm not afraid, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and then ended up getting COVID and dying. I've seen tons and tons and tons of stories about that on the internet. It makes me feel like if we had a zombie apocalypse, that there would be half of this population that would say, I refuse to be afraid, and then just go running straight at the zombies.
Okay, but at the same, like, there was no law that anybody could have passed here that would have prevented anybody from doing that, aside from being China with robots outside telling you, get the fuck inside or we're going to kill you or imprison you.
That was never the idea anyway.
I know, but I'm just saying,
no penalties for not doing anything.
That's what I'm saying. So no matter what state you were in, no matter where you were at, you could have said this, and this. Like, this is what we recommend you to do, and people were going to disobey it no matter what.
Well, there was other ways to handle it, and some states did so better than others in regards to, like, you can't tell a person to stay home, but you can make it so that they have less options. You can control whether, like, when businesses close.
Yeah, but I don't like that either.
You can control when the schools open and close.
You can control that because it's publicly funded.
Right. Well, and you don't control it like it's not done like in a dictatorship kind of way. Like, you don't get to tell the businesses, "Hey, guess what? You don't get to do anything." But you can certainly, like, offer incentives and stuff like that too. And all of this is in...
I also don't like the word control.
All of this, well...
Like, that's a dangerous
I didn't necessarily pick the best word there.
True, but
I just mean, what I meant to say is you can control the situation. Not control the people, but that's what we do
but you also don't, like,
government, is we control situations.
But I don't want to do that by control... by having some kind of control over... businesses, things like that. You know, I mean...
Well, what do you think the function of the government is? If it's not to, like...
Well, it's not to... Like, it definitely isn't to interfere with people's business. Or people's life...
Have you ever heard of business laws?
Yeah, but... Well, okay, here's the thing. Every law that's ever been put in place tends to have a purpose in garnering, like, some kind of monetary control over said thing. Like, that's why the interstate was made. The interstate was not made to help travelers travel. It was meant to have political control over every state, so each state could not be independent.
I mean, I'm aware of all of this, but that's a part of living in a society. Like,
a free society?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Like, if you want to be free, if you want to talk about freedom and, like, pure freedom.
I like how we said we weren't going to have a political conversation yet. We're just, like, going full-fledged into it.
Well, you know.
I know.
You know who I am.
Well, it's a good convo. I don't get to have these very often.
You dangled the carrot in front of my face.
What were we going to do? We had just had an election, all right?
Yeah, right. So, no, I mean, when you're talking about freedom... Like, if you want to have pure freedom, then the best thing that you can do is you can build a homestead in the mountains and you can make that happen for you. But you can do that, but most people don't. And you know why? Because it's a lot easier to just get your food from a place and be able to buy things and have heat and have internet and have all of that stuff. In other words, you live in a society. And part of being in a society with other people is that you have to contribute and then you get things. That is standard for any kind of government, from, like, fascism to monarchy to communism, and socialism and all of that kind of stuff, is that you give and you get in a society, and all of that stuff has to be regulated.
Okay, and I can level with you there. Like, I see what you're saying. You explained that well, but don't you think there becomes a level of that where it becomes dangerous?
Well, all of us do. I think that this election that we just had was a real referendum on that stuff, because we had, coming off of the 2020 election, regarding all of the election denial, and there were several candidates in the midterms who were people who tried to circumvent the results of that election, whether by fighting it in court, or by giving their own slate of electors that weren't the ones that we as the people elected or anything like, and stuff like that. That was kind of the reason why this midterm was so important and why the discussion about Trump is still very, like, forefront, is because his candidates did bad, and this is why. So you talked about, like, freedom being taken away and stuff like that, and I agree with you. I felt like we were on the cusp of having freedoms, or, like, having the freedom of having a real electoral process in this country being taken away from us. The reason why the Democrats lost the House is because of gerrymandering.
What's that?
Gerrymandering is where you redraw your districts in ways that benefit you or your party. For an example, you look at like Utah, which overwhelmingly is a red state, but Salt Lake City itself, in typical fashion, is much more liberal than the rest of the state. So, like before this cycle, they redrew the districts that include the city, so that they had a little bit of the district and then some rural area with it, so that way there was a lot of like red vote to kind of offset the blue vote, and this stuff is done purposefully. It's being done all across the country. It's a lot of Florida.
Here's what I'll say about all this, because obviously like election integrity has been a very big topic of the last few years.
Yeah. Well, in law as well.
But from just my own personal observations, I would say election tampering happens every single time from both sides.
Generally speaking, it's very, very low.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually look at the real reports, there are independent, like, committees that do this.
But I think there's always been... It's just like cheating in sports. You know what I mean? Like, both parties are going to do whatever it takes to try and win. And I'm talking... We could go back... We could go back to the first election.
Well, for sure. I mean, that stuff doesn't matter now.
I'm just saying it's nothing new. Like, this isn't a new thing that's just like all of a sudden now this is happening.
Right.
We had the whole issue when
obviously the Bush-Gore thing.
We had the Bush-Gore thing. We had when Obama and McCain. Remember, there was like the whole digital thing where you'd hit one name and it would pop up as the other name. There was like digital issues. We had the Trump Russiagate thing. We had this last election where there was questions about the mail-ins. We've always had questions whether deceased people still vote. We've had questions whether it's right or wrong for illegals to vote and whether that's happened.
What are illegals?
People that aren't registered to this country.
Undocumented immigrants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they should not be able to vote in our elections, much like we shouldn't be able to vote in their elections.
I think that I can probably level with that as a logical argument.
I mean...
I think that there's a real conversation going on about people who are like criminals or felons and whether or not they should be able to vote. And I know that was manipulated in this election.
I'm just saying, this happens all the time.
Right.
That's my whole point. There's always going to be some kind of thing that one side or the other is going to try and push to try and levy the situation to their side.
There's something that should be very important in having that conversation.
Sure, no, I'm not saying
that there should actually be some semblance of real evidence. There was evidence of the stuff that you were talking about the tabulation of digital votes between Obama and McCain. There was evidence of issues in the Bush v. Gore thing with the butterfly ballots or whatever they were called. I can't remember now. It was something that happened in Florida, which really swung the election. There was the stuff with Russia and Trump really wasn't about them literally tampering in our election. We did look into it, of course, but more than anything, it was about internet trolls and stuff like that influencing the will of the people.
Right.
But as far as the deceased people in 2016 and stuff, there is no evidence.
Sure. I'm saying, but there's no evidence that it's not.
I'm
just saying...
No, I mean, sure, but the thing is that, for me, if you're going to make that argument the way that high-profile Republicans and all of these people did, you have to present something. You can't just say, this is a thing that happened, trust me.
Well, I'm saying, isn't it possible that it could happen?
I think that it's possible, but until there's actually anything presented to make us feel that way, then there's no real reason to entertain it.
I can't pull up any... Obviously, I don't have anything that I can just cite, but these are things that have been talked about.
I mean, the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is on my phone, I have tons and tons of documents that I downloaded from both sides with election reports. I have the reports that like Republican attorney generals made about Georgia, Arizona, all of the states that they really, really cared about, Pennsylvania as well. Like their own words. Mm-hmm. And I've read through that stuff a little bit. And they don't present evidence.
Okay, that's fine. No, I'm just saying.
Like,
I'm just presenting different scenarios.
Yeah, no, for sure.
A possible.
I'm just saying when we're talking, like when people bring up this stuff, I feel like it's important to actually have evidence.
Well, I'm just saying, I think election fraud happens every single election cycle. No matter, like, I mean, think about it. You could easily have people standing outside. I mean, this is illegal, but you could potentially do this, have people standing outside talking to people who are going in to elect and be like, did you hear so-and-so did this and this?
That did happen this time.
I know.
And there were people standing outside of election places in Arizona with their rifles intimidating people.
See, and that's illegal.
It is. There was also people who were counting the ballots wearing like MAGA hats and stuff like that. It's also illegal.
To show your candidacy, or like your
as like a poll
preference.
worker.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, there's you can't say that has, like, think about, before the internet and things like that in the 60s and the 50s.
Oh yeah, shit like this was going on all the time.
I mean, you had mobsters straight up threatening people, like, you better vote for this person or we'll kill you. Like, there's rumors that that's how Kennedy got into office. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
There's obviously all kinds of different theories about certain things. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I think elections have been rigged since the dawn of time. So
I don't think that they've been rigged at all. Like, there's been some fraud on behalf of the people.
I mean, who's to say that they aren't? Like, I mean, that's still rigging an election.
The problem that I have with it is that everything that has been presented as real evidence has shown that has a very, very small effect.
Okay, sure.
Not even close to.
Well, let me just say,
swaying effect.
Okay, and that's fair. There's always been attempts to rig elections or to sway elections. Like,
I'm sure that's true.
That's how I should have stated it.
Yeah.
Now let me circle back because I've gotten way off from one of the points that I really tried to make.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was talking about how Trump and DeSantis are going to have their little war and this and that may or may not affect the overall pool of Republican voters. The real question I have, who's going to run for the Democrats?
Yeah, well, and that, I think, is probably the $1 million question, because I
think that's going to be a
look
huge
around.
Well, first of all, Biden, yes or no?
No.
Okay, then we agree. Mm-hmm. I think there's no chance he runs.
Yeah,
but here's my question too, because maybe this is me being a clueless.
I think if he does run, he'll be primaried.
What do you mean? Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Can they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Of
course.
Like, I thought the incumbent always just got to.
Generally speaking, that's what the DNC and the RNC want, but no, you can still throw your hat in the ring.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, if that's the case, then that's 100% what's going to happen. Because the DNC does not want him to run.
Well,
like
we have to put up somebody better.
I will go on record right now saying if Biden runs against anybody on the Republican side, it's not going to go well.
I wouldn't necessarily say anybody. Biden's done some great stuff.
Has he?
Yes.
Or has the party?
No, he absolutely has. He himself is the one who did the student loan relief, which is a major good thing. Absolutely. We can talk about it more in a second. But he's got that.
I don't know that he has done anything.
That was an executive order.
Okay.
That was him. It is. He did that.
Like I said, I don't know that
it was
he's
probably
doing
with
much.
It was probably with advisement.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Like, he's doing fine. Like, he's not.
Is he?
He's not a vegetable because he fell off a bike once.
That's a whole different story. Have you heard him talk?
He has a stutter. That's a medical thing.
The guy forgot that somebody was alive or dead.
He definitely has his moments. He's old. I'm not going to deny that. He has his moments.
But it's not going to get better.
Right. Well, no, and I already told you no to him. I already said no to him running.
I know. I'm just saying. I think he's very clearly slipping into.
Oh, I think that's definitely very, overstated.
But I remember listening to him when he was Vice, and he sounded fine.
I know, he's older.
Yes.
But like I said, there are some things. He has a stutter. He always has, and it's gotten worse. For sure.
I think it's more than a stutter,
He definitely does show, and you're talking to a psych major here. I know that he does have some indications of dementia.
He straight up forgets what he's saying in the middle of what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Like I just said, he does have signs of it.
Yes,
for sure.
and that's not good.
But he's not, he's, like, his brain is not melted. He's doing okay. People with dementia are not just, like, completely insane.
Well, I mean, Ronald Reagan ran, like, his whole last...
He was kind of end stage.
His last 3 years, like, I'm just saying, people thought he was running shit, but he wasn't running anything.
I absolutely do think that if Biden was to, like, go for re-election and by some miracle win again, that we would be dealing with the same situation there.
Well, let me at least say this, okay?
Because he's getting there, but he's not there yet.
Optics-wise, it just doesn't look good to the general public. Would you agree with that? Would you rather have a guy like Barack, who's a young statesman, who speaks like well, and like you?
Well, like I said, I said no to him running again.
I know.
For that reason,
but I'm saying
for that reason in part.
Okay, fair enough. You know what I want? I want a president that looks like he could kick somebody's ass. I don't want a president that looks like he's just gonna. I want a president who looks like he could fight for me.
Well, look no further than Pennsylvania's newest senator, John Fetterman, who's 6'8" and is built like a fridge, dude. He's the guy who beat Dr. Oz.
Oh, really?
Dude, he's massive.
Yeah, I like how you're like, what? No,
I want a president that can kick my ass.
I want
peeking there.
I think a little bit. I still want
a president that could kill a man.
I think presidential elections should be done in rounds. We should have an intellectual round where you have to take a test like you should just do Family Feud style.
Like an IQ test?
No. I'm talking head to head, the two candidates, the Democrat, the Republican, you straight up do a Jeopardy round against one another. Round number 2. Round number 2.
A boxing match.
No, that's round number 3.
Oh, okay.
The final round is a straight up hand-to-hand combat locked in a cage. Last man standing by judge's scorecard is declared the winner. You have to be physically fit enough, you have to be mentally fit enough, and I don't know what the third option would be, but like maybe you can sew or something like that.
Oh, like having like skills. Yeah. Like you could do like a presidential talent
show. Yeah. We should elect presidents the same way we announce winners for America's Got Talent.
I mean, we do by votes.
I know, but we should just have the same setup.
I don't know.
Simon Cowell judges.
I don't know if that's a good way to have a good president. We might have like a fun president.
Well, okay. Can I say
when I think about the people who won America's Got Talent, I can't say as though there's a dearth of people that I'm like, man, I wish that person was also the president.
Okay, but if we were actually literally talking about this, I would obviously mold it around a political
No, I know
thing.
that we were joking.
Well, now let me say this too.
In part.
Here's another thing. We need to have more candidates than 2. Like, if you could get...
I agree with that. Ranked choice voting, baby.
Yes. If you got 10... Because okay, let's take this last election, right?
Yeah.
You had a lot of people that were voting for Biden because he wasn't Trump. You also had a lot of people the opposite.
That's every election.
Now, if you had 10 candidates, all of which have
here's my problem with that though, and here's what the problem is with that. Let's say that we have 10 candidates and 6 of them are Democrats and 4 of them are Republicans.
No.
I mean,
one Democrat,
obviously,
one
like,
Republican.
All of these different, but like, okay, fine. I guess maybe let me rephrase that because that wasn't the right thing that I was trying to say. Here's what I guess I mean to say. Let's say that we have, and they're across all parties.
Sure. Or whatever. Let's say you have a far-right Republican, a far-right Democrat, middle, centrist.
But what if you had this? Because you're not going to be able to vet that hard. You're going to generally have, or like, what if you had 6 candidates who are on one side of the spectrum and 4 that are on the other side of the spectrum?
Okay.
Because then you're going to be giving a huge advantage to the one that has less.
No, because actually you're
splitting the vote.
But okay, so here's you're thinking too much in the 2-party thing.
Well, no, I know that, but that's where we are at as a country.
But I mean, obviously, we're at a 2-candidate system too. I'm trying to completely do away with all of that. I say get 10 of the best minds, the best people who we see fit to run this country. 10 of them. They all vie for our, and they go on.
Define best fit.
Just, I mean, 10 of the people that we think, or who obviously they think are best to run this.
Who's they? The people?
I guess you'd have to have primaries and things like that. I don't know. Or maybe we do it by district.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
I'm just thinking about this off the top.
You questions.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just trying to think of this off the top. Maybe we vote for one person in a certain. I don't know how you would figure that out.
There's just a lot of aspects that you're asking.
Yeah, but we've been able to figure it out up until now.
Because, but the thing is that one of the reasons why we have a 2-party system is because it narrows down the amount of candidates so that people can spend a lot of money. If you make it ranked choice voting, it's going to just go to whoever has the most money.
Well, it already does.
Because, what are you going to do? Who's going to select? Somebody has to select these people. If it's the people as a whole that select all of the candidates, then only the people who get the most exposure are going to move on. Which means that it's going to be monetary.
Again, that's already how it is, though.
I know that. But I'm just saying, you want a system that's better than what we have.
So, here's what I'll say. I would rather see our presidential full election be run more like a primary. You get X amount, maybe not 10, 8, something. More than 2.
Understand.
So where, maybe one person, then they all
So what do you want? Do you want to have more parties? Do you want to have, the Green Party...
I mean,
the MAGA party.
Personally, I want one party. I want the independent party, which is
everybody.
Everybody just is.
So it's like a no party system.
Yes, because then we're not on teams. It's not a team thing. We're all on one team. We're on Team America.
Well, okay. I mean, that's fine, but I said, so where do our candidates come from?
See, I haven't thought this all through. Everyone just throws their. How do we get primaries? You know what I mean? How do people run for primaries?
People are identified by the DNC. I mean, obviously, you can do other things. You can just rise to prominence on your own through being a celebrity or by being a particularly effective member of Congress or something like that.
Okay, that's a decent...
Which, once again, it still, lends it to being rich people.
Okay.
For example, let's say that
the money thing isn't what I'm trying to avoid.
We'll go the Bernie route here.
I'm trying to.
He was grassroots funded.
I just want to go
on his own merits.
I want to go with the person that makes the biggest
person.
Well, I want the person that makes the biggest statement effect.
Impact.
Yes, I want somebody who's this is who I am. This is what I'm about. Blah blah blah, and then gets the people to rally around them, not the money. Obviously, you got to have the money there too. I mean, there's both there. You're not going to get away from that,
right?
Let's just say this. Let's just put out a example here. Let's say you have 10 people, right? Or 10 candidates. You got Bernie, you got Biden, you got Trump, you got DeSantis, you got, I'm just people of the last few years.
Uh-huh.
You got Barack, you got you got all these guys. They all have different, I mean, obviously Barack's thoughts are different, or Barack's stances are different than DeSantis's, and Barack's stances are different than Sanders.
Right.
They're still
so we have a spectrum.
And now they all make their you could do a big debate, which debates are just fucking ridiculous because any more debates are just he sucks because this and this and this.
It would be better, I think, if we were going to do your system here.
They can all
go. If we just had separate addresses, TV addresses.
That's what you
where
should.
They can just present their own thing and maybe make it a rule that they can only allot so much time to bringing up other people, because you're going to have that. You're going to have people say, well, Bernie said that he wants to fund this program by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I also want that program, but here's how I'm going to fund it, and here's why it's better.
That is exactly what they should do. You have to sell yourself to the public.
Rather than tearing everyone else down.
And the person that sells himself the best is going to get the most people. Like, especially when you have a wide spectrum, when you have a lot of different people, there's going to be one person that a higher majority of people feel is the person. And I think you're going to get the people who, you're going to weed out the crazies. You're going to weed out, you're going to weed out the Trumps. You're going to weed out in this situation, you probably would weed out a Sanders, not because he's crazy, but because he has more radical ideas. Mm-hmm. So you're going to weed out those guys too. But you're going to get a guy who has, I think in this system, you would find somebody who has more of the country's interest at heart.
Well, okay, that makes sense. And I guess if we, if I just, shut up about, well, how are we going to do that questions and stuff, and we just look at it okay, so we figure out a system, we're going to make it work. Here's the other big concern that I have. What's stopping a super popular celebrity from just taking that over? Because you've made a popularity contest now.
Yeah.
And so what if somebody like Kanye West, in his prime, he's a little weird now, but he was a huge musical phenomenon at the time. And if he threw his hat in the ring, he would probably win on the merits of just simply being popular. He wouldn't even necessarily have to open his mouth and even tell you what his political ideas are. And I think that that's a dangerous thing to do for somebody who has the nuclear codes and is going to be on the phone with people who want to shoot their nukes at us.
Okay, I agree. But here's the thing too. Kanye could have run. He could have run then, and I don't think he would have won.
I gave an example.
I know, I'm just saying. I think The Rock, let's use The Rock as a better example.
Okay.
Because he's the most popular movie star, and he's pretty squeaky clean when it comes to, scandals and stuff. I think there would be a large group of people skeptical that The Rock has the political knowledge.
I think that politically inclined people would be that way, but, if you look at the stats...
I also think there's enough people
That's a minority.
Sure, but I also think there's enough people who would like The Rock to be president that wouldn't vote. They're just oh, I like that idea, but then they just don't vote.
What would you think about, Robert Downey Jr. being the president of the United States?
What would I personally think?
Yeah.
I think that's probably not a good idea, because I don't think he has a very good political background.
Yeah. So let's say...
But also, let me just say this too.
Okay.
Sorry. I think I loosely use the terms political background because I don't know that we really, I think that's been lost.
Maybe rather than political background, we should say political knowledge.
See, and I
understanding.
But I think political knowledge and political understanding has been lost too. I think it's, there's a... Politics is just a game now. When you're if you're a new...
Well, when we're talking about this, we're not talking about the pageantry aspect of garnering the will of the people.
No.
We're talking about understanding of the system, understanding law, understanding foreign policy, understanding how the economy works. These are things that I think should be requirements
more than anything
for the president.
No, I agree. And I think it's not a requirement to be a congressperson anymore. I think you get a lot of congresspeople who do understand law.
There was an 18-year-old that ran for a federal seat in this state. You can't tell me that an 18-year-old understands the nuances of how the American economy works.
Right, and I think that's been lost very heavily. I think a lot of... I think back in the day we had statesmen that truly understood law, understood foreign policy, things like that. Mm-hmm. And I think now it's become just this celebrity game. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, and that sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks because you don't get those.
But that's
politics. Here's the thing: politics should not be interesting. Politics should be boring as fuck. You should have the most boring ass motherfuckers running for office.
Well,
we should not
be interesting.
Sure, you can be interesting, but we don't.
Because of political reasons, not because of pageantry
But
reasons.
politics should not be interesting. Politics should be politics, and politics are not interesting.
I think they're interesting.
Well, they are because it's a pageantry.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think that, like...
They're boring.
I mean, okay, whatever.
Shit.
I mean,
and that's fine.
I think that politics itself is interesting.
It's okay for them to be boring.
Yeah.
I don't want my politics to be interesting. I want them to, because if they're interesting, that's when you're dealing with all this.
Bad things are happening.
Yes. Like, I remember the days when it just was the most boring shit ever. Like, and all of a sudden, now it's like, that's like the most popular thing, because now we got celebrities that are like, using their spot of taking their bullshit awards to be like, climate and blah, like, whatever. Not that I say climate's a thing to not talk about. I'm just saying to boast their political ideologies. Like, political ideologies have become this statement.
I think that's always been a thing, but it's definitely become more like
it's more
maybe like more overt now.
And I honest to God cannot tell you how and why this happened. Like, where did this start? You know what I mean?
Probably, I would say John F. Kennedy.
I would say so too, yeah. Just being like the first real, like, kind of celebrity president because he was just so popular.
He really had a lot of charisma.
That too. But it's just like...
And obviously he was kind of like... he was involved with Marilyn Monroe and all of that kind of stuff.
And like the whole assassination thing was like very spectacle.
He kind of like built a bridge between the political world and the pop culture world,
yeah,
which generally had kind of been pretty separate at that point.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you're right, and then you add Reagan later on,
yeah,
and the
bridge got more and more, and then you have somebody like Obama, who I don't think like had the intention of being a celebrity, but he had that it factor.
I also don't think he had the intention of being president as soon as he did.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, I think that he was put in that position by the DNC because of his charisma.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of charisma, and I think he just became a celebrity because of that charisma. He's a cool guy.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And I think you also add, like, satire. You add things like, SNL making fun of George Bush. Things like that where it becomes more...
The bridge was built
pop
from both
culture.
ends.
Yeah.
Like, we just talked about how the bridge was built from the political side, but it was built from the pop culture side as well.
And we need to stop that. Politics. That's my campaign.
I guess
make politics boring again.
I think that
Also, you know what else? You know why else that was a fuckery? Why else that really messed things up?
Why?
Because it made politicians feel more like celebrities when they need to feel like public servants. They need to not feel like what they're doing is newsworthy as far as what dress am I wearing, or look at me. They need to not do things that are spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so many celebrities now so many politicians now are wanting to be celebrities,
which is a problem.
And then you got celebrities who are wanting to be politicians. It's just bleeding into the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Politics were always meant to be a public service, not meant to be a way to become famous or be a way to become rich.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or a way to further your personal interests.
Yeah, and
it's
which is also
to be public service.
And of course, we're far away from getting back to that.
I think that I would say that I don't necessarily want politics to be boring.
Make them boring.
Necessarily in the way that you're saying, because I do think that there needs to be a level of intrigue to keep people of this society interested
Especially
in
now.
Participating. I do want people to participate in the process, but I think that it should be less about the people and more about the policy.
Yes.
I would say that
I agree with that.
Something
100%.
that was good about this midterm is that I would say one of the biggest single factors in it was everything that happened regarding Roe v. Wade. And whatever about the situation or whatever a person's views are on that should be considered to be a good thing. That's the whole point of us doing politics, is because that is an issue that has come under the control of policy, and we should have our voice in that.
Mm-hmm.
So
agree.
that would be great. Like, so we voted on that as a policy concern, not because we liked people, but because we cared about the policy.
Yes, I agree. Question: how did this state vote with that?
This state?
Yeah.
With that, like, anti-abortion law that we had, last I checked, it was failing.
Meaning, like,
Meaning good for pro-choice people.
Okay.
I don't know if that's how it stayed, but the last time that I looked at it, it was like 60% were saying no to that being a thing.
Okay. I was just curious. I haven't paid attention.
So, did you look at like what that law was like described as? So they described it as this. They said if any baby is born alive, they need to immediately have personhood, which basically gives them all of their human rights. Like the moment that they're born, regardless of anything, if they have like severe genetic anomalies that are going to kill them like within a couple hours or whatever, and we know that like prior to them being born, or we know that upon them being born, that a doctor has to put every possible resource towards keeping that child alive. And it was listed
Let them vote.
Huh?
Make them vote.
Yeah, make them vote.
Keep them alive long enough to vote.
No, it was keep them
I'm
alive.
just kidding.
They said keep them alive long enough for them to be baptized.
Oh, that's okay.
Which is because, I mean, it was an anti-abortion thing. It was a foot in the door anti-abortion legislation, and they were making an appeal to religious people for that. But I was thinking to myself, like, this child is miserable and wants, like, probably, I mean, they're not conscious enough, but, like, we can all look at this and say, the best thing that can happen here is for this thing to be put out of its misery.
Let them vote.
Let them vote on it?
Lower the legal voting age to 0.
I mean, I'm down to lowering it to like 15.
I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
I think we should heighten it.
I don't think that's the case either. Dude, if you're old enough for...
To die in wars.
Yeah, if you're old enough to die in wars, if you're old enough to, like, put chemicals in your body, if you...
Well, I think that should be...
cigarettes,
I think that should be heightened also.
Perhaps. But definitely, if you're old enough to go, like, overseas and shoot people for your country, you should be allowed...
to
or
vote.
You should have a seat at the table in regards to what you're fighting for.
But I do think I think that should be heightened too. I think you should...
Why?
What?
Why should that be heightened?
To be able to go die in wars?
No, for voting.
Because I think...
Do you think that somebody who's 21 and politically involved has less of a seat at the table than someone who's 40 and politically involved?
No, I think somebody who's 21 and politically involved has a higher intellect of what they're talking about than somebody who's 18.
I mean, can you prove that?
No, but
I think
like,
that there's plenty of brilliant 18-year-olds.
Sure, but I think there's plenty of not.
That's okay. That's the section. That is a full section of what is considered to be adults in this country. Everybody has an equal seat at this table.
But well, then why not just make it nothing? Like everybody, why not make a 5-year-old be able to vote?
I think that saying that you have to be like a legal adult is probably fair.
Yeah, and I personally think 20. I think 20 is like. I mean, when I think about myself at 18, I didn't know what the fuck I was like.
I mean, scientifically speaking, like I said, psych, I have a bachelor's in psych and I have enough credits for a master's. I'm not saying that I'm so smart about this, but I have some level of expertise. And the cognitive ability between an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old is not that great a margin.
Well,
if you,
I mean, if we want to go that route,
saying that you want somebody to be at their peak intellectually, then you would want 26.
Yeah.
To be the age.
Then that's fine. Let's do that. I don't want dummies voting. This would never happen, but I goddamn wish you had to prove that you were not an idiot to vote. Like you legit knew how to read, write.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think that's kind of an elitist attitude?
No, and that's why I'm saying
what is
it will never happen.
Like, because I can tell you that, like, I went through, like, depending on what your test is, like, you know where I was at when we left high school. Mm-hmm. I was an honors kid.
Sure.
I took the ACT and got an amazing score. I was considered to be incredibly intelligent. But guess what? I didn't know how to write a check.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to.
That's a problem in itself.
I didn't know how to balance a checkbook.
That's a school problem. Schools need to figure that shit out. We need to start teaching real life shit.
I had used a hammer, enough times that I could probably count it on one hand.
Would you agree with me though? Like schools need to start teaching like
Absolutely.
life skill shit, like
Absolutely.
how to do your taxes.
Dude, the fact that I didn't know how to balance my checkbook, but I could tell you what a Shakespearean sonnet is, I think is a joke.
Yeah, teach kids how taxes work. Teach kids what credit is. Teach kids like what a credit card does for you.
I will say that some of the other stuff is important in that you are trying to help like high school kids figure out what their interests are in regards to what they're going to do in college.
But there has to be a point where you should.
But we should also teach people how to live.
At least when you're at least senior year, you should have to take a life skills.
I mean,
class.
I would say that I probably have used more things that I learned in my cooking class than I did in
biology.
I guess that would probably be
or geometry. Well, geometry is actually kind of good.
I actually used a ton of geometry.
Yeah. I use it when I play
that costume that I built used a lot of geometry.
Yeah.
The one that I won $1,000 with.
Yeah. All right. I want to move this away from politics because we're getting far into it.
Okay.
And we're pretty deep into the podcast. I want to do these top fucking fives, all right?
All right, let's do these top fucking fives.
Because that was something should we still do the blind taste test? Should we still do the blind taste test?
We can.
Okay. We'll see how far these go.
Okay.
We'll do a couple each. Now,
I had a couple ideas too, but if you've got them, then let's do what you've got.
For the top fives?
Yeah.
No, I want you to present some.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Here's how we're gonna do this, okay?
Okay.
I'll present a top five, okay, that I've already thought about. I need you're gonna come up with it on the spot, and then I'm gonna let you go first after I present it.
Okay.
And then I will give my top five.
Okay.
Or do you want to go back and forth? You five, my five, your four?
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
The one thing that I'm going to say, like, obviously you've had a chance to think about these.
But then
I know, like, when we've done these before, like, when we did top five, like, Disney movies, like, it was a lot easier when I had time to look at it and think and
go ahead
stuff.
and look at it. Go ahead and look through them if you have to. Like,
Okay.
have your phone ready.
I
We can look
gotcha.
through a list. So, I'm going to present you with should be a fairly easy one,
Okay.
but one that you better fucking know and get right.
Okay.
Top 5 gaming consoles.
That's funny. That was the first one that came to my head today, too.
Well then perfect. Okay, I'll let you start. Number 5.
All right. So number 5 for me. And okay, so mine's probably going to be a little different.
Give me your
yours,
criteria. Give me your criteria.
Well, I'm going to base it on the one thing that matters for a video game console, and that is the games that are
available
on it. I don't care how innovative or cool the console itself is. If it doesn't have good games, then it doesn't matter.
Okay.
The Sega Dreamcast was a really cool gaming console, but it's not going to make this list because there wasn't a huge amount of games that...
I'm going to base it on games available to the system.
Okay.
I'm also going to base it on... I will include functions of the system, like how my Xbox can let me watch Netflix and shit.
Okay.
I'm going to include stuff like that as a feature, because we're talking specifically about the console, not about the games, but the games are included in
I just think that's like the make or break for a
Sure.
console. You look at the GameCube, which was could have had a lot of potential, but they didn't release a lot of good games on it.
No, that's a huge part of it. I'm also going to include quality of like what...
Like hardware?
Yes.
Okay, well the Xbox 360's out.
Well,
With a 56% lemon rating.
Well, I'm saying like the yeah, I'm thinking of everything that is included with it.
Yeah, okay. I understand.
Just the console itself. So go ahead.
Okay, so let me think, because I definitely know what my number 1 is. I know what my number 2 is. I know what my number 3 is. I would probably say...
Yeah, I got to think about those like 4 and 5s also.
I guess, just so that we're not like taking up too much time, I'm going to say that number 5 for me is going to be the Nintendo Wii.
Ooh, good one. I like that. Why? Give me a little bit of why.
Okay, so for one thing, it had incredible games on it. You know, just like as a small... like handful of those, obviously like Super Mario Galaxy is considered to be one of the greatest Mario games of all time. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was really, really big. Wii Sports is an absolute heavy hitter in the video game world. I could go on. But on top of that, the fact that they utilized motion controls in a way that was actually good, because PlayStation tried, Xbox tried, and there were things that tried before the Wii too. They actually made it work. And it was fun. It felt good to play motion-controlled games on there, in my opinion. I think it was a great console.
Okay. Number 5, I'm going to go Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
Namely because I've never owned one, so that's why it's number 5. I think it's the most innovative console of all time as far as, like, function.
It's portable and a home console.
Yep.
And works both ways very well.
Also having some pretty incredible games as far as, like, Zelda, what's it called?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Mario Kart 8 is on there and whatnot. But then you get the motion control. You can use it as a functional, just regular controller. It's very versatile. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going to give that the number 5.
Cool. All right, number 4 for me. I'm a big Nintendo guy. This probably deserves to be a little bit higher, but for me personally, I'm going to put number 4 as the PlayStation 2.
Ooh. Okay.
And it was hard between the 2 and the 1.
Yeah.
I think I personally like the 1 more because I really like RPGs, and the PlayStation 1 was great for RPGs. But I'm trying to think of the overall, like, the stuff that was on the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 is a huge console. Everyone that I've known had a PlayStation 2 at some point in their life. Everyone.
Yeah.
And, like, then you think about the games that were, that were big on there. Like, the big GTA games, especially San Andreas, were super big. The Sly Cooper games, I think, were really big when they came out. It's hard. I don't know the console as well, so I'm not going to, like, list a lot of really good ones, but I know, like, I personally really like playing, like, Twisted Metal on it was super cool. The Crash Bandicoot games, I think, were cool on that one. Shit. There was a lot of, like, just super good games on it, and it was so incredibly popular.
Number 4 for me. I'm going to go Xbox 360. For me personally, because I spent so much goddamn time on that. I think I've put more hours on an Xbox 360 than any console ever.
Yeah.
In full, yeah. What can you say about the games? You got Halo. You got
Gears of War.
Left 4 Dead.
You don't have a huge amount of exclusives.
No, but regardless, it was a console for me that I put a lot of hours in.
It was a big one. I would say that most everybody that I know had a 360 as well.
Yeah,
Here's what my concern is about the 360, and I said it already. The Red Ring of Death, 56% of them.
It's number 4 for me for a reason.
I know. I'm not arguing with your list. It's yours. So that was a concern for me on it. All right, number 3 for me is going to be the Nintendo Switch. I do have one, and I've played the shit out of it. I think it's an amazing console. I almost put this at number 2.
Let me say this. If we've already talked about it, we don't got to go into too much detail.
I was just going to say why it's higher for me.
Yeah. I'm just putting that out there for both of us.
Yep. All right, that's it for me.
Because I just want to be able to do a couple of these
3
lists.
is the Switch.
Number 3 for me is going to be the Xbox One.
Okay.
Simply because it's backwards compatible. You can play 360 games on there, some of them. It is better quality. I've used it more times just for non-gaming system stuff. So that's why I got it at number 3.
Sweet. By the way, the number 1 console that I played in my time is not going to be on this list. But the number 1 console, like the most time that I put into a singular console...
We're on number 2 still, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'm just saying, by far, for me, is the Game Boy Advance, and I do think it's an amazing console, but I'm just not putting it on here.
That's fair.
I love it, though. But anyway,
beer or what?
Nah, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm going to finish this pack up.
Number 2...
Here's to vacation!
I love beer-flavored water. Number 2... for me is the Nintendo 64. it was the first major 3D gaming console, and it changed the world. Super Mario 64 changed the gaming world. And I would say, I don't know if it's changed at this point, but I know for a very, very, very long time, critically speaking, the best game, like the number one game of all time, was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that game did change the gaming world, like more than anything else. It was an absolute innovation.
Number 2 for me goes to the PS2. Highest selling console of all time. Like you said, everybody had it. That was backwards compatible also. You could play PlayStation. That's why I put it at number 2. That's why I would have added PlayStation 1, but because it is backwards compatible with all PlayStation 1 games, that's
reasonable.
That's why PS2 is so high for me, because you get all those games, and it was just PlayStation 2 basically, like, I think PlayStation 2 is what launched us into the modern era of video games.
I think I could agree with that. For sure.
And what's your number 1?
Number 1 for me.
I'm surprised.
And dude, it's by far the number 1 console for me.
Oh, this better be good.
I think that this console, and it's purely by the games.
Okay.
A lot of my favorite games are on this console, and I really just think that the quality of games is amazing. The number 1 console for me is the Super Nintendo.
Doggy. You might make me change my list with that one.
The Super Nintendo is an amazing console, man.
Yeah, there's nothing more you can really say. God, what did I have at number 5?
You had
Switch?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck the Switch. The Switch is because I've never owned a Switch.
An honorable mention.
Honorable mention, Switch. Super Nintendo's going in at number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is only one number 1 for me. The game's phenomenal. For its time, probably the most revolutionary of its time.
I know what you're going to say.
The absolute most nostalgic system. The main reason this is number 1, more than anything, besides the awesome games, besides the revolutionariness of it, it's all about when I was a kid, and all about the nostalgia. Still plays fucking amazing to this day.
I agree with you.
Is the Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
No question, number 1. Mario 64 is the single greatest video game of all time.
Yeah.
No, like in my mind, Mario 64, the greatest video game of all time.
It has its faults, but the only reason why it has its faults is because we have moved on from it. At the time of it being out, there really was no faults to be had on it. I mean, you could look at it now and you can say, like a very, I think, legitimate criticism of Super Mario 64 is that the camera controls suck. But the only reason why I feel that way is because
I'll put up with it.
I've played games that have modern camera controls. Until then, there was no reason to complain about the camera controls of that game. It was perfectly fine for the time.
And I don't think any game really had camera controls up until then.
Not like that.
No.
It's a 3D game.
Yeah. So
it's technically like an open world game because you can do whatever you want. Like,
it's phenomenal.
You can't say anything bad about it. Think about some of the other games on the console. Like, I don't personally
like
care
you said,
that much, but like
Time.
GoldenEye is like a huge game.
Dude, we could just do a top 5 all-time Nintendo 64 games.
And like Conker's Bad Fur Day,
yeah,
that people think is an amazing game.
Yeah.
Kind of whatever to me,
but still, it's up there. Like
the Mario parties.
You got
Super Smash Brothers started
the
on
original
that
Super Smash Bros. You got Pokemon Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong 64, Star Fox 64.
Yeah, Star Fox is a big one.
All right, give me one of your lists. I don't think we're gonna get to the blind taste test today.
Yeah, probably not.
Let's just do a couple more top 5s, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. So that was like the big one that I had was consoles. It's funny that you did that too.
There was only one list that I had to be done, and it was that one.
Right.
Let me see my other list. Go ahead and find yours if you can.
Yeah.
I got another good one that we could do.
Why don't you go for it then?
All right. top 5 children's cartoons.
Okay.
No adults like
I got you.
We're disincluding no animes either.
Okay.
No animes and no adult cartoons, Simpsons, King of the
Family
Hill.
Guy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, top 5.
What about, like, I mean, I'm not going to put it on this list, but would you allow, like, Ren and Stimpy? Because it was a kid's cartoon.
I would
and
not.
It became an adult
I would
one.
not.
Okay.
I mean, that's a gray area, but
Right.
I know you're not going to put that on your list anyway, so.
It's a fine enough show, but it's just fine.
Should we say top 5 children's cartoons of all time or top 5? I mean, this is all your opinion anyway, so.
Let's do all time.
No. Because, no. Top 5, that's a whole separate list. Because then I got to think about everybody. Your personal top 5 children's cartoons.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying, like, our top 5,
Yeah.
from all time.
Okay. Because, like, otherwise, like, God tiers like SpongeBob. You know what I mean?
Well, what about, like, Looney Tunes?
No, that's well, okay, yeah. See, then that's when you're getting into that
And, like,
stuff
Tom
too.
and Jerry, the
Right,
old Mickey Mouses.
So this is your personal, what you think are the top 5 greatest children's cartoons
Okay.
for you, your personal favorites.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, just the metric is how much I like them.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not the general public's favorite.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Number 5. This is going to break your heart. Some of mine on here.
I'm actually trying to figure out what my number 1 is going to be. I'm pretty sure I know.
You know what my number 1 is. We talked about it all the time.
I know what
You probably know what my top 3 is. You might not know where they land on them, but
It's tough, man. It's tough.
yeah, let me think. I just got to think about 4 and 5.
Okay, I got
You can start since I started last time.
Good point. Okay, I'm gonna go number 5. For me. It wasn't necessarily the one it wasn't my go-to as a kid, but definitely a little bit more as a teen. I kind of enjoyed it a little more, and it is a classic that everybody can enjoy, and I know people would be pissed if I didn't put this on my list, but it truly is on my list because it's a very quotable show. It was enjoyable as a child, even as an adult. Number 5 is going to go SpongeBob.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you got to think about, like, the memes that they have now.
I mean,
like, it's amazing.
I mean, it's not a show
It's
I
a
dislike.
cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, I certainly did watch it.
You know what? Number 5 for me is going to be SpongeBob SquarePants as well.
Okay, all right. So that was an easy wash on that one. Okay, we can agree on that. Number 4. Number 4 for me. I'm gonna put. Let me think. I'm trying to think of all. I'm trying to think Disney. Disney really didn't have. You know what? Okay. I'm gonna keep it because you opened this door. Okay.
Mhm.
We're gonna go old school. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Since I said old school, I'm going this route. Okay, you got the Hanna-Barberas, you got the Mel Blanc style with the Looney Tunes, things like that.
Mhm.
If I'm going old school, the one that stuck with me the most, that still to this day I watch, Scooby-Doo.
I thought that was going to be what you were going to say.
Scooby-fucking-Doo.
It's an amazing show. I wish that they hadn't run it into the ground with the new ones, but
I'm
I'm not going to, like, take the merit of the original series
I'm talking the 1960s Scooby-Doo.
with the laugh track.
Yes.
So good.
Straight
So
up.
good.
Straight up.
It got really predictable, and the episodes are all kind of the same thing. And you know what? I don't give a shit,
Doesn't
dude,
matter.
because it's
Doesn't
so
matter.
good. There's no reason to fix what isn't broke. That's going to be my honorable mention.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
like,
That's fair.
I loved it. It's a huge part of my childhood. Just the other shows that I have on the top 5 are ones that I just enjoyed more.
I'm waiting for you to say one that I'm just like, fuck.
I don't know if I'm going to do that. There might be one.
Okay.
My number 2 might do that for you.
Okay.
Okay, my number 4 is Ed, Edd n Eddy. And now, the thing about me putting it at number 4 is not to say, doesn't say anything about it being bad. It's just, to me, the quality of the, like, putting this one at number 4 says more about the quality, in my opinion, of the other 3 than it does about Ed, Edd n Eddy, because Ed, Edd n Eddy is an incredibly amazing show. I can't really say anything bad about it. Honestly, the worst part of watching Ed, Edd and Eddy in my childhood was that my mom hated it so bad that she made me feel bad for watching it. But I did anyway. Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit. She just thought it was really dumb, and she told me that she thought it was really dumb. And she's right. It is really dumb. I love it.
I'm having to look at a list because I don't want to miss anything.
I might be missing things, but I'm like, basically what I did is I just went through my childhood and I thought, what are shows that I really thought about a lot?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, that's a good way to go about this list. It's just hard because, like, you know, obviously anime was a big part of my childhood too. So it's and we're not including that.
It's like a handful that really mattered to me a lot.
Yeah, but that's a list of its own. It's a list of its own.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
We could do that next, though.
We could.
We're not big anime watchers, so we're not going to like...
You know, I was a Cartoon Network kid, right?
Me too.
Like, that was my shit. And
every other show on this thing is a Cartoon Network show for me. I mean,
we're at number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm thinking about the Nickelodeon stuff, and I'm like... I mean, like, I enjoyed watching, like, Hey Arnold, but it's not even a Band-Aid on the ass of the stuff that Cartoon Network had.
I was just a Cartoon Network kid, and that's just who I am till the day I die. And here's what I'll say, okay? Here's my number 3. There's 3 that I can put here, okay? There are 3 absolutes that I can put here. And the other 2, I'm going to put as an honorable mention just because they are both phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Like, all 3 of these movies, or all 3 of these shows, were just the shit to me, okay? And they're all so good. Those 3 are Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, and Powerpuff Girls.
Classics.
And the one that I'm going to put at number 3 for me, this is hard for me to say. Like, the other 2 are phenomenal, so don't get me wrong. They're honorable mentions for sure.
So good.
And the reason I'm putting this is because it was so good for so long. Oh, you know what? Let me add Courage the Cowardly Dog to this list. Obviously, you know...
They're basically doing, like, all the cartoons except for Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Because you know where that's going.
I know where it's going.
So those 4, because Courage is good too. The problem, and you know Courage isn't going to be my number 3 now, because I just added that. Mm-hmm. The reason Courage is not in there, and same with Johnny Bravo, I'm just going to spoil that right now, it's not Johnny Bravo. The reason both of those aren't in there was because they weren't as good for... their first season and a half were good. Mm-hmm. After that, not so much.
The quality kind of dropped.
Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab had quality for a long time.
Although, have you seen the last 2 seasons of the Powerpuff Girls?
Well, and same with Dexter's Lab. I'm not talking about the reboots. I'm talking about
No, I'm not talking about the reboots either.
Same with Dexter's Lab. Like, at least they were solid for 3 full seasons.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Powerpuff Girls had 4 that were really good.
I'm going to have to give it to Dexter.
I figured you would.
Number 3's got to be Dexter. And you know what?
It's good,
man. I love the Powerpuff Girls. But
I do too.
The reason Dexter's in there, because also you add in like the Justice Friends, like the little mini cartoons they had in there. Like, that was so fun too.
Justice Friends was cool. You had episodes that followed Dee Dee around. Every once in a while you'd have an episode that was like centered on Mandark, which was always really cool.
Basically, I'm just giving my number 3 to all the basic cartoons, but Dexter's going to be the front runner in that. For me.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Dexter's Lab is a great show. Okay, my number 3 is Adventure Time.
Ooh! I like it. I like it.
You know, like, that show was a phenomenon for just me by myself. It was like the inspiration for like little comics that I made. You remember Broomstick. Like, I had all the posters, I had all this stuff, and it was a cultural phenomenon too. Like, you went places like Hot Topic and Spencer's and all that stuff, which kind of like, you know, have a clientele of like teenagers and young adults, and they were selling that stuff. Like, it was universally popular between like kids, teenagers, and young adults as a big show. And like, even now, like, if you ask anybody around kind of our age group and lower if they know what Adventure Time is, they do. Mm-hmm. It was a big one. Yeah.
I mean, that just, it went a little bit past my, like, I was into it, but not quite like you. Like, it was.
You were into it because we watched it together.
Yeah.
But you recognized that it was a quality show when we watched it too. Mm-hmm. It also, like, if this matters to you as like a political person, I think it was also the first one that actually featured like
Lesbians?
Yep. I was gonna say like a lesbian, gay, like the LGBT thing entirely, like an actual
That
moment.
doesn't bother me. Or that doesn't bother me, but it also doesn't matter to me.
I know. I'm just saying it is. I mean, that's an accolade that it has. It's
sure.
It's decent.
Yeah, no, it's a great. I mean,
Other
shows like Steven Universe and stuff like
even like shows like that danced around it. Like rather, they initially wanted to have like the Crystal Gems like do something like Kiss or whatever, but instead had them like dance when they fused. It was, and like Clarence had some stuff in it that kind of, it was kind of playing with it a little bit. But I'm pretty sure, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Adventure Time was the first one that actually like went there overtly.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with it. Number 2.
Yep.
Now this might surprise you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Number 2 for me is the front runner of the cartoons. One of the biggest cartoons of my childhood.
I expected that you were going to put this at 1.
I know, and my number 1 might surprise you, but it doesn't surprise me. Number 1 for me is Ed, Edd n Eddy. It is the number 1 cartoon for me. It was it made me do things they did. Like I made my own little mall in my basement. It made me a creative.
The imagination of that show is incredible.
It helped to make me a creative. Not to mention, it's just gut-busting hilarious. Also one of the shows that did last more than 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. So, Ed, Edd n Eddy.
I don't think I ever saw an episode of that show that wasn't good.
Yeah. Amazing
Some
show.
of them were better than others, but all of them were good.
So, Ed, n Eddy, number 2 for me.
Yep, number 2. All right.
Wait, how did we... this is your number 1.
No, it's my number 2. You started. Because my number 3 was Adventure Time.
So how am I ending? Oh, you're ending.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
Because you started.
Yeah. You're right.
So, my number 2 was Teen Titans.
Woo! That's a good one.
I knew that one was going to get you.
That's a good one.
I didn't think you were going to think of it.
And you know what? I stand by my list still. I will not make that an honorable mention, but it's a sure close one. That's a great number 1. That's a great number 1.
I would say that show was like a formative part of my youth. Like, I would say it came at a time that I feel like it would be accurate to say, and this is going to be fucking weird, man, but everyone had to get here somehow. I would say that Raven was my sexual awakening.
Agreed. That's why I'm into big titty goth girls.
Yes. But no, I mean, outside of that, like, I'm not even going to mention
everything.
I'm not going to mention Teen Titans Go on this podcast because it doesn't deserve it. But like, you look at Teen Titans and it had everything. It had funny moments, it had dramatic moments, it had like heartwarming moments. It had like parts of the show, like, because this wasn't a big thing for American cartoons, I feel like, at the time that it came out. It had like where there was continuity between the episodes. A lot of the shows that we've just talked about are things like every episode was self-contained and there really wasn't any effect on later episodes from previous episodes. Besides maybe like some minor things like an introduction of a new character or
linear.
Something like that. It had some linearity to it. There was a point where like the big bad guy for the whole first part of the show, who of course is Deathstroke, died. And he was gone. He was dead. Like, he didn't come back until the very end. And the very end of that show is the single... I'm not going to say what it is, because if there's any viewers that haven't seen it and care about cartoons at all, they need to see it on their own. The end of Teen Titans, in my opinion, is the absolute greatest sign-off of any cartoon that has ever happened. And I don't know how anything could top it. It's amazing.
Well, I'm going to... in my personal world, I'll top it just based on... So literally everything you said. Wait, didn't you just... That's your number 1?
That's my number 2.
Oh, shit.
Because you're going to do your number 1.
Yeah. So I was assuming that was your number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good number 2. I'm awaiting your number 1 now. I'm absolutely like shaken.
It's not going to be like earth-shattering for you.
Oh, I think I know what it is. Okay. Teen Titans should be your number one. But no.
It's very, very, very close. I considered it the whole time we were talking.
For all the reasons what you said Teen Titans was. Linearity, funny, but also serious, tackles all matters. From beginning to end, it's phenomenal. Every episode is just it's just the shit. For all those same exact reasons. Plus the animation style in this series, the characters, like there's no flaw that I can find. There's not a single flaw that I can find in this show.
Can I guess?
You can after I
Okay, I have a guess.
Not only is this my number one children's cartoon of all time, it is in my top 5 all-time shows ever.
Mm-hmm.
And your guess is?
Actually, why don't you say it? You deserve it. I'll tell you if I was right.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay. Cool. I thought that was an anime.
Oh, no, it's not.
I guess not technically.
It's by Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
It's a Nickelodeon, and that's why it's kind of a gray area, but it's not technically considered an anime.
I gotcha.
Just
Kinda
like Teen Titans is not considered an anime.
Right. Okay, yeah, dude, Avatar's a great show.
Well,
I still haven't seen it.
You need to. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen
There's
it.
only
There's only
3 seasons, but it's so fucking good.
I know everybody that I've talked to has said that it's
phenomenal.
Absolutely
What
amazing.
did you think I was going to say?
Like, when I was thinking about other shows that were linear, I could only think of one other one. I would have been surprised for you to say this unless if you just had like a renaissance with it as an adult. But the only other show that I could think of that met the same stuff as Teen Titans was Samurai Jack.
Ah, okay.
Especially after they rebooted it for that one season.
No.
That last season they did on Adult Swim was really good.
Avatar
is
number
a great
1,
show.
no doubt.
Even though I haven't seen it, I know it's
You
great from
need
the
to.
episodes that I have seen.
There's no way you cannot go your whole life without fucking seeing this series.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm actually shocked you haven't seen it. It's Dragon Ball Z meets
Naruto.
Yeah. Well, no. It's I would say or Dragon Ball Z / Naruto meets Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. It's
The characters
exactly
are
what
great.
it is. Yes.
Like, I still like
The animation
about
style's
the
great.
characters from the episodes that I saw.
And it's the same thing where it's hilarious, it's funny, but also so serious at the same time. And it's just fucking, it breaks your heart and it warms it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
No children's cartoon has ever made me feel like that show.
Right.
That's why I'm saying it's in the top 5 all-time shows for me. And your number 1
is the Powerpuff Girls.
I knew it. Yeah. Once you said it, well, I should have realized that you hadn't said that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, okay.
I love it. It's amazing. The characters are amazing.
Hilarious.
I mean, the last 2 seasons are not good, and the reason why they're not good is because Craig McCracken left to go make Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends with his wife. So for me, I don't really include them that much because even though they have the name, it's not him. And he made that show. That was it was originally made. He made a concept for it as his college final, and rather than having a thing of chemical X go into the concoction, it was a can of whoop ass.
Oh yeah.
Professor put in there. And so when he made his college final, they were called the Whoop Ass Girls. And like they had the same design and everything. They were still called the same things and they still did the same stuff. But it's cool. It's such a seminal part of him as a person. And so without him being a part, I just don't really count it exactly. But those first 4 seasons, there is not a bad episode. It's really good. And you think about like the villains, and if you think about them as an adult, you can kind of see the analogs to like real life situations and stuff. And I think that's really cool. But they're also like super interesting as a kid. Like I know that there were like episodes that, you know, the main enemy was him. That like
they had a lot of good villains.
They had a profound effect on me as a kid. Most of the him episodes were very scary to me, but like in a way that was like really like they were super cool. Like I thought they were awesome in the day and they terrified me at night, and that's like really, really good, you know? And then like, I mean, Mojo Jojo is like an iconic cartoon character. He's a little dorky, but he's cool. He's like perfect for that show.
Yeah. No, it's
It's
just like any good hero has great villains, like a great cast of villains.
Yeah.
And like they're a superhero show, and they did well with that to have a good cast of villains.
But I haven't even talked about the best part of the show. So the best part of the show is Professor Utonium.
Oh God. AKA Samurai Jack, as the theory goes.
Well, those are in the same universe.
I know. But yes, Professor Utonium and Mayor.
Vote
for Mayor.
How could you not?
I know. Well, do you want to do one more? We're almost at 2 hours.
You know what? I really need to pee.
I do too.
So if we are going to do one, we should do it quick. Or we can save it for next time.
Let's save it for next time. And we will also do the blind taste test next time.
Sweet.
We did not get to that. But let's close this bad boy out. I thought that was good. Good way to end it out. We voted for Mayor. And we're going to close it out like that.
Sounds good.
Besides one other thing. We got to close it with a positive or motivational message from the guest.
Okay.
As I always do. What do you got for us?
All right. It's been a little bit since I've been on here. A couple months ago, I went through surgery and I went through COVID with my appendectomy. And
yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
I know that I've talked about this stuff, or I know that I've talked about this before on this segment, but it just became like when I went through that stuff, it just reminded me about how important this is for me as a person. When I had that surgery and I had COVID and I had to do the recovery and I had to do all that stuff, I couldn't exercise. And I know I talk about this, I beat this drum every time that I go on here, but man, I gotta tell you, considering the fact, like, you think about who I was when I was in high school, when I was really, really small, and I didn't exercise and stuff, and I just can't stop thinking about how much better I feel when I exercise. So even though I keep saying it every time I come on here, I mean it that much. My positive thing is get out and exercise. It's good for your deal.
It's good for your physical. It's good for your mental. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that.
Makes you feel good.
Worked out today.
Nice.
So.
I did yesterday.
Right before I go to Nashville and get fucked up.
Well, then you'll have to work out again.
Yeah, I'll work out there. So thank you guys for checking the show out, for watching all the way to the end, because it was a very encapsulating, entertaining episode. That's why you made it almost 2 full hours watching this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show. It's only a matter of time before you're back.
Oh, yeah.
So, till next time, don't forget, life's a garden. Dig it. Just gotta keep on keeping on.